Welcome to another episode brought to you by Imagine Strength, the future of safe, simple, and effective high-intensity training equipment. Are you a HIIT studio owner looking for equipment that's not just top-notch, but also tailored to your specific needs? Imagine Strength is your answer. Inspired by the legendary Arthur Jones, Imagine Strength is revolutionizing the HIIT industry with their state-of-the-art yet affordable equipment. Their team doesn't just sell HIIT equipment, they live and breathe it. I've personally experienced their gear at the Resistance Exercise Conference, and let me tell you, it was an intense workout that I won't soon forget, in the best way possible, of course. So why choose Imagine Strength? Number one, they provide customized solutions for HIIT studios. Number two, they have budget-friendly yet high-performance designs. And number three, they're committed to innovation and excellence in high-intensity training specifically. Founder Jeff Turner and his dedicated team are on a mission to make HIIT accessible to everyone. Getting started is easy. Number one, visit imaginestrength.com. Number two, consult with their expert team. And number three, choose the equipment that will skyrocket your business. Don't wait. Head over to imaginestrength.com and elevate your HIIT studio today with Imagine Strength. Lawrence Neal here, and welcome back to High Intensity Business, your one-stop shop for elevating your HIIT business and fueling your passion for high-intensity training. This is episode 439. Today's guest is Logan Herlihy. Logan, you'll be pleased to hear that I have a more professional intro for you today. We actually had to re-record this, and I had a more funny kind of, nonsense intro. Logan Herlihy is a senior exercise physiologist and general manager at Discover Strength, Salt Lake Valley, set to open this fall, or actually set to open in December now, isn't it?
December, hopefully. Yep, that's what we're on track for at the moment.
Got it. Discover Strength is a leading boutique fitness brand offering efficient 30-minute workouts for busy individuals. Over 6 years in the fitness space, Logan has overseen 20,000 plus resistance training sessions. He's the author of How to Look Good Naked. He's working on his next book for 2024. He's a seasoned speaker with degrees from the University of Central Florida and the University of Wisconsin River Falls. Logan also hosts the Discover Strength podcast, Debunking Fitness Myths. And you can contact Logan over at logan@discoverstrength.com. I know there's some changes regarding the podcast. Maybe you want to announce that now. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me, Lawrence. Yeah, I don't know which intro I liked better. I kind of liked the silly one, so
I'm sorry.
it's okay. When we re-record this for the third time, we'll go back to where we started. No, it's great to be here. Yeah, the podcast is taking a hiatus for a little bit. I'm transitioning out of that just with my new managerial role. I hope to maybe do some more podcasting in the future. But as far as the Discover Strength podcast goes, you'll still have access to all the episodes. We've got, I want to say it's close to 70 something episodes that'll still be on the website that you'll still be able to look up and listen to, send to friends. So it'll still be there.
It's fun, isn't it? Because it's a great podcast. And, the way I understand it is you guys obviously launched that podcast to help your clients, right? It makes sense. It's a great way to retain clients, give them another educational touch point, motivate them, inspire them, help them realize that the why, behind the workout, as our good friend Luke would say. And, it's funny because obviously a lot of us in here tuned in. Right. So a lot of us who aren't DS clients tuned in because, we love the DS perspective on evidence-based training. And you guys did a great job of providing content that was quite point solution based. So like if you wanted to learn about negatives or, the evidence around, strength training for preventing, sarcopenia or whatever, like all these different, you were very kind of focused with the content, which made it quite good for, I need to learn more about X, and dial right into that particular topic, which I found really useful. So you guys did a great job. You're a great host. I was quite jealous at times. So I'm glad that, maybe you're not doing it for a while, so maybe I can kind of catch up, So, so with all that said, as a fellow podcaster myself, obviously we exposed to many great minds. You learn a lot. It's difficult actually because you get a lot of conflicting views, right? And you're constantly being challenged, right? Especially if you talk to all these different scientists and such. And sometimes it can be difficult to know, what is the best way to build muscle, or what is the best way to manage my lifestyle, to optimize my health, etc. So I'm just very interested to know, how has the podcast changed you? would you say?
Well, firstly, I appreciate all those kind words. We had a blast doing it, and it was such a cool experience for me to talk to a lot of my sort of idols, in the fitness industry. Being a part of Discover Strength, we really preach diving into the scientific research, and I think I might have been the only person in the world that was super stoked and geeked out to talk to guys like Stu Phillips and maybe not Doug McGuff. Everybody in our industry seems to like him, but a lot of these scientists that, aren't really used to somebody being super excited to chat with them. I think, just they were able to feel that enthusiasm. I hope that I had for exercise science and hopefully we pass that on to our listeners. So we'll see what happens with future iterations of the show. I think it makes sense for Discover Strength to have a podcast going forward. I'm just not at a place right now where I can continue to do that with my other responsibilities. But again, I don't think I'm done podcasting. So, with all that being said, big takeaways. I think every podcast I had challenged something, and I think having that open mind and that spirit of wanting to be challenged and wanting to have people push back against you and create that friction to want to go learn more and to learn new things was so exciting for me. So, I'd say I haven't veered too far away from where I started. I think I've just broadened my horizons a lot more to what I think technically falls under the umbrella of evidence-based. I think there's a lot of I think the issue with high intensity training sometimes is we love guys like Arthur Jones, love guys like Mike Mentzer, and they were right about so many things, and they did it without any scientific research. I think what we as hit zealots, tend to do though is just say, look how right they were. Like obviously this is the way to train. And we're sort of waiting for the research to catch up with that. And it is, and it's starting to. But there was also a lot of things that Arthur was maybe not right about. And realizing that when the research shows that pretty emphatically, you have to abandon things that you thought before. Like I didn't read the paper, so I don't want to talk too much about it. But I know there was a highly critiqued paper that just came out. I think Brad Schoenfeld shared it. There was like upwards of 30 sets per muscle group for muscle growth. And maybe you're familiar, you've seen it on Instagram or anything like that, but they showed significant increases. I mean, statistically significant increases in hypertrophy from doing upwards of 30 sets on like leg extension, leg press, and squat in each individual workout. And it's like, we would see that and go, there's no way. Why would you do that? Oh, this is so dumb. But it's like, you can't flippantly just ignore those things. And that to me, I think has been a big sort of coming around. It's like, I don't need to make my clients do 30 sets of leg extension to see hypertrophy. I've seen enough anecdotal and research evidence to show that one set is plenty, but I also can't say emphatically anymore that, 30 sets of something is not effective either, because there's research to show that. So that's been a big change for me. Just trying to be less, know-it-all-y, I guess. We kind of have that, what is the Dunning-Kruger effect, right? Where you go up to the peak of Mount Stupid, and then you think, oh, I've obviously, I've learned everything there is to learn. Now I'm in the, I forget all the names of the different areas, but pretty quickly you end up right back at Mount Stupid again, right? And you have to kind of go through that cyclical cycle your entire career if you're continuing to learn. So I'll stop rambling there and see if you have anything to.
No, it's good. So maybe I can just add some to that. So it's when you really open your mind and dig into a topic, then you fall into the chasm of the curve, right?
Yep,
where you actually realize you know nothing, and it's like an abyss.
Yeah.
And like, I always remember James Steele saying that, because James Steele's like one of the smartest exercise people I know, or just smartest people I know, period. And it makes you a little insecure when you hear someone like that say something like that. So that's but it's just a reality,
Yeah. I mean, I've definitely learned to distrust people who seem to know it all. Talking to researchers. Yeah. People who've, like Stu Phillips is a perfect example. The nicest, most humble guy you've ever met. And arguably one of the, if not the most prolific, exercise science protein researcher on the planet. And he still is like, we'll see. Yeah, I got a pretty good idea, but like maybe, yeah. He's not talking in absolutes. And I think the more and more stuff we see out there on social media, people who are just these blatant charlatans, it's like I've learned to really respect people who go, this is what the research shows. I've got a pretty good idea that I've worked with it anecdotally. I've seen it over and over again, but I can't say emphatically this is the only way. And then once you abandon that, you really start to open yourself up to learning and actually taking in other things. And I think that applies to all aspects of life, not just exercise science. But that's been pretty cool for me.
Awesome. And with that, like, it's funny, right? Because you could say, so what I'm hearing is before you did the podcast twice a week, full body strength training to failure, after doing 2 years or whatever it's been of the podcast, twice a week, full body strength training to failure, nothing's changed. But
Well, it's go ahead.
go on,
Go ahead.
sorry. There you go.
Yeah, I mean, what I would say is that I understand that there's more ways to get there. What I would say though is it has driven home the idea that I think high intensity training is the most practical way to train for 95% of the population. That doesn't mean, now that's the thing that shifted. That doesn't mean it's the only thing that works. It just, to me, is abundantly clear that this is the way that people should be training. Like that part has been driven home, because why would you want to do 30 sets of leg extensions to failure if you could do one set and get 95% of the results, right? Especially when you're looking at an isolated study. And that's, again, a problem with a lot of the exercise science research. It's 4 weeks, it's 8 weeks, it's 12 weeks. What happens over the long term? Well, let's look at the safety of the person that's training. Let's look at the continuity. Is this something that they can actually commit to for a lifetime? And that's where high intensity training, twice a week, 30 minutes, full body, with supervision, working single set, maybe occasional like drop sets, multi-sets, things like that, slight, variations from that, maybe like a Menser sort of technique, but really isolated in that umbrella is the best way for the vast majority of people to train. That's definitely been driven home for me.
Yeah, I have similar experience. So it sounds like a lot of what you've learned on a podcast has kind of affirmed a lot of what you do anyway, not through confirmation bias, but just through a open-minded exploration with the guests. However, I am curious to know, like, maybe you could give the listeners just a quick overview of training, diets, maybe some details about that, because you look great, Logan. You're in great shape. And I would love to know if there has been any influence from the podcast on those decisions, so on your lifestyle. So,
Yeah. I mean, personally, in my own training, I still try to, stay with a twice a week full body. Occasionally I'll go into, a split upper lower kind of thing. Whether it's like a Doug McGuff kind of, breaking it up over longer rest periods. There's so many different styles that stay under
chest
that same umbrella.
Tuesdays,
Yeah.
chest Mondays, actually, isn't it? Is it? I don't know.
I don't remember. It's been so long, but I've actually been getting into a lot of Menser's stuff recently. That's been interesting, and he tended to isolate body parts a little bit more, at least in some of his writings. But the workouts don't look that different, I would say, except I've been incorporating some other things. So something I've been incorporating recently is length and partials, right? So there's a really cool amount of new research that's coming out, sort of spearheaded by Solent University and a young, soon-to-be PhD out there named Milo Wolf. And he's really sort of leading this movement on this idea that you can train specifically just in the lengthened position in a lot of different exercises and see significant hypertrophy benefits. So statistically significant differences from full range of motion training, which has for the last 10 years really come to the forefront as you have to train through a full range of motion. We've known for quite a while that the shortened position doesn't elucidate that many benefits compared to full range training. So it was always, at least how I was taught, full range beats a limited range of motion. Well, now we're starting to see which range, right, becomes more important. And the length and range seems to be really, really beneficial for hypertrophy. Now you could go down a whole different conversation of, is hypertrophy even important, right? And
yeah, there's other benefits from a full range potentially. Yeah,
yep, exactly.
But if we're isolating that variable. And can you just paint a picture for those listening, lengthen partials, like what does that look like? Maybe you could describe an exercise.
Is this going to be on video?
Yeah, it will be.
Yeah. Okay.
But do your
So
best to paint a picture with words. You've got a wonderful, flowery vocabulary.
stop it, stop it. So I like to think of, the two exercises that really sort of light up the muscles in my mind are going to be, imagine like a machine preacher curl. So like a Nautilus, incline preacher curl, and just coming up to about the 90-degree bend and then extending back down. So that first 30 to 45 degrees of the motion, right? Where your muscle is, and I think this is probably part of the mechanism driving it, is that there's tension. As long as there's tension in that lengthened position, because there's a lot of research coming out on basically stretch mediated hypertrophy now as well. So stretching under tension and how that elucidates some additional hypertrophy benefits. So as long as there's tension in that lengthened position, coming up about halfway, say 45 degrees, and then coming back down, or on a leg extension, literally the worst part of a leg extension, right? Getting to that full stretch in the bottom and just extending up about, what is that, 135 degrees, so maybe 65 degrees, just that bottom portion of the actual leg extension, and keeping tension the entire time through there.
Yeah, that's interesting actually, because for
It's
me,
terrible.
well, yeah, I can imagine. I haven't really tried it that much. I was actually thinking of the Medex bicep curl, which I was using yesterday. I actually hate the last third. You know that last bit as you're coming
Yep.
up right towards the shoulder. So I actually think I prefer doing the protocol you described. I might give that a go. Interesting.
Yeah, so I've experimented with some, full sets. Milo's been exclusively training that way for like the last year and a half, like only
Hmm.
length and partial. So I'll do an occasional set. I'll throw in just the length and partial, but I really like it as an AOT, a finisher, if you will. So doing a full set, maybe dropping the weight potentially, depending on how you're feeling in that particular motion and the strength curve of the machine you're on, but then
Hmm.
doing another sort of, half set, partial set to failure in that lengthened position until you can't even maintain that anymore. And that's pretty.
Beautiful. So, you are the author of How to Look Good Naked, which no doubt has a fantastic section on diet and your take on that. So, give us an overview of diet. I also, you can throw supplements in there because I'm curious if, again, stuff you've consumed from the podcast or just your learning in general has kind of changed your strategy around supplement usage, if at all.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the biggest thing with diet kind of, reiterates how I feel about training. Like I was so dogmatic when I first learned about HIIT, and it was just like, I found the light, peak of Mount Stupid. Like, I'm there. This is the only way to train. And at that same time, I was exposed to Dave Asprey and the Bulletproof Diet, and I lost about 30 pounds. And obviously there was a lot of other things going on at the same time. I was training, I was resting more, like I was sleeping better. I was recently sober, so I was not putting all these chemicals into my body anymore. But as most of us do, I thought that the bulletproof diet, keto in particular, was sort of this miracle that I had found to just, lose weight without even trying. And it was for me at the time. Like that was subjectively true. I had found something that made weight loss super easy, didn't have to try at all. But the more I've talked to people, the more I've actually started to understand the science of nutrition, the more I realized that, and I love Gary Taubes. I love, good calories, bad calories. I think there's some really interesting information. The Case Against Sugar, like all those books are fantastic. But again, you have to look at the human, as Lane Norton says, the human randomized control trials, right? You have to see what the science says, and the science says thermodynamics wins, right? And calories in, calories out, as unfortunate as that is kind of what reigns supreme. Now, obviously, there's a lot of other levers you can pull along there, but the thing I've really come to understand with diet is just, what can you do? Like, stop thinking of it as a diet, I would say, is my biggest transition. Like, make it a lifestyle choice. What do you want to eat? Okay, what can you eat consistently that you can eat in a consistent, slight caloric deficit over time? If weight loss is your goal, perfect. Do that. Hopefully it's not Twinkies and root beer, but if it is, great. If you can stick with it and you can lose weight, you can do that. Now, I think whole foods are probably better. Like, you had Dr. Ted Naiman on recently. I thought that was a great episode. I think he's really smart. But same thing. Like, he was sure it was this high protein thing had to be the way. And it's like, yeah, that works when it works. Well, guess what else works is all this other stuff if you do it in a caloric deficit. So that's been a big change for me too, is it's not very sexy to tell people that. But I don't think that there's a real way around it. Now you can talk to someone about the nuances, and there's a lot of nuances when it comes to food. How do you feel about eating this? Do you eat because you're sad, right? Like those are the conversations you can have with a client that really start to affect and impact what they can do from a diet perspective. Because it's a lot of times it's more than just I want to do keto or I want to do Mediterranean or whatever it is.
What's a day of eating like for Logan right now?
I eat Rice Krispie treats and root beer. No,
Root
it's
beer.
I don't know why root beer stuck in. Yeah, I been doing this meal plan service for a little while now. It's called Flex Pro. There's no magic behind it or anything. It's just you get the calories and the macros on there. But I haven't been doing a very good job of actually tracking and logging those calories and macros. I just think it's easy. It's convenient. They've got tasty stuff, but I really don't concern myself too much with what I'm eating. Really, what I'm trying to do now is cut back on sweets and figure out good ways to do that. Because I go through peaks and valleys of that, just like everyone else. Where, last night I had a ice cream sundae with, 3 mini Reese's cups sprinkled on top. So
Beautiful. Today's episode is sponsored by Imagine Strength, the game changer in safe, simple, and effective high-intensity training machines. When it comes to HIIT, Imagine Strength is your go-to for intelligently designed, efficient, and affordable equipment. Their team is passionate about HIIT, and it shows in every piece they craft. So why are Imagine Strength the right choice? Number 1, they tailor-make their equipment for HIIT studios. Number 2, they provide cost-effective solutions for your business. And number 3, they are committed to ongoing innovation and refinement. Ready to take your HIIT business to the next level? Visit imaginestrength.com to discuss your needs and find the perfect gear for your studio. Join the HIIT revolution of Imagine Strength and transform your workout experience today. I'm the same. I remember you saying when you were getting, I think this is right, when you were getting really cut for How to Look Good Naked, or part of that, maybe it's before that book, but it's kind of part of it. You were having sort of like, in terms of like, you had obviously a strict calorie target, but you were having like maybe tiny little ice cream snack things in order to kind of get through. Do you still use those? Like
I should. Yeah.
Right.
No, I think I just need to retrain my taste buds right now because I've not been concerned about it. I'll tell you what did it is Costco has these freaking Reese's dipped animal crackers and they should be illegal. And I'm going to write a message to the Reese's company.
Strongly worded letter.
Yeah, strongly worded letter. But no, I think stuff like that. There's plenty of cool options out there now.
Yeah.
I was getting these little gelato bars for a while that were like 40 calories, but were really sweet. They were like made with real fruit or whatever, but they're this big, right? So you have one of them. Yes, that's what I'm having.
That's the issue. Like a lot of people, probably a lot of our colleagues will consume a lot of like high protein snack foods. But a lot of the time, I remember Doug saying this, they don't, because they're so heavily processed, they don't really help with the satiety side of things. So you can still overeat those quite easily. You've got to watch that, haven't you? But they can be a good little hack. I mean, I tend to follow more like broad heuristics these days. So I'll just, my simple kind of approach is just consume a ton of protein, through the day. I never have cravings for anything sweet till the evening anyway, but then I make it so I can't eat after a certain time, which is typically like dinner with the family, and then there's no more eating. So after the kids are asleep, there's no snacking. Obviously, I do this 80% of the time. There is the odd time where I'll break this rule. But I then will probably have some sort of small dessert or something after dinner, but because but because I'm using the restricted feed-in window, so to speak, it kind of helps mitigate some of that.
Yeah, so, I mean, there's been a lot of meta-analyses that have come out over the last few years of how intermittent fasting is no better than caloric restriction and all these things. But again, that's where the lifestyle factors come into play. And I think that's where you have to have conversations with your client because, calorie for calorie, there's no difference. But If you snack after 8 o'clock and you put a hard cap on, I'm done at 6, you maybe have cut out accidentally 500 to potentially 1,000
Exactly.
calories from your daily consumption, right? So, oh my God, intermittent fasting works. It's a miracle hack. It's like, no, but yeah, it is for you. So, I don't think that point can be, driven home enough. That's like, these things work for people, and they've worked really well for people because they allow you to calorie restrict, right? But that seems so simple, but it's a really important point. Like, what allows you to do that? If it's literally just, I'm going to eat less, awesome. But for most people, that's not the case. They have to have, whether it's time frames, or they have to have certain foods they can and can't eat. Like, they can't just eat ad libitum, and expect to lose weight. So
Yeah, wise words. So let's switch gears here. So I want to get into some personal training topics. Obviously, you've got vast experience doing 20,000 plus sessions by this point. Work for various companies in high intensity training. And these are a couple questions that I get from listeners, and I'm excited to talk to you about this. So I think the first one I want to get into is probably actually makes sense to start with this one. So there's this idea of trying to find the Goldilocks intensity for clients. Now, hopefully, everyone listening to this immediately, the ears perked, are like, yes, this is my challenge. It's trying to find that intensity level that's just right. And what I mean by that is, a lot of us want to be able to train a client to muscular failure because we know that it's going to recruit all the muscle fibers. It's going to probably produce the best results, right? But every client has a different kind of intensity tolerance. And we don't want to scare off a client, but equally, we don't want to train a client to to a lower intensity, because that's also going to kind of cause the client to feel like they've been underserved and not getting a great workout. So it's trying to find that Goldilocks, that perfect amount of intensity, or trying to get as close to that as possible. So I'm just curious, how do you go about that when training clients? What's your approach for that?
obviously, this is a very nuanced topic. So I'm going to speak super generally.
Sure.
Just general rules of thumb for people. In general, somebody who is not super intense probably is not super target motivated, meaning we'll get clients who come in and go, what did I get last time? I need to beat it. Usually, if they're super low intensity, they don't care. They're just there for their workout. Again, speaking very general, right? So as a high intensity practitioner and as a trainer, you should be tracking their workouts. The best thing to do with somebody who's not very intense is track their workouts and lie to them. And what I mean by that is sneak in extra stuff. Whatever your style is, if you're a super slow practitioner, sneak in an extra 20 seconds of tension without telling them. Just tell them, like, extend it out and don't let them know, right? If you're a regular, Arthur Jonesian style 2-4, maybe you do some other protocols in there. Don't tell them what they got last time, and just push them when they get closer as if that's their normal target. Does this make sense? Right? They got 10 last time. Hey, Lawrence, you need to get at least 2 more. Oh God, I don't want to do it. Okay. And then surprise them with that afterwards, right? Hey, you got 2 more reps than last time. That was amazing.
Dang.
Like, you can push yourself further than you even know. And they'll go, oh my God, okay. That's
And
great.
do they have that little joke with you? Like, hang on, you didn't tell me. And you have like a little in joke where they're like, you lied to me, but I kind of like it. Is it?
I
I've had
would
that
say
happen
in general,
before.
yeah, in general, that's the reaction, right? Because
Yeah,
they
yeah.
don't know what they're supposed to do. And if you cue it up, I need 5 of these because they only got 4 last time, they're going to give you 5 and stop, right? But a lot of times with intensity, people just, they know it's uncomfortable, but after a certain uncomfortability threshold, they can't distinguish between this is more uncomfortable than I was last time, or this is a new threshold of uncomfortability. So I would say you just have to be really prudent, and you don't even have to tell them. Like, I think you can sneak that stuff in. One of the things I like to do, again, this is in general as well, is we have a system at Discover Strength, like a 1 to 5 intensity. I will frame up an AOT for somebody who's less intense as if it's the easiest thing in the world to do, where I might frame up the exact same AOT with somebody who's more intense as this is the toughest thing in the world to do. Meaning, you're on a chest press, right? And we're going to do a hold at the end, in the halfway position, right? An isometric hold there. If you're a super low intensity client, go, hey, Lawrence, after we finish this rep, we're going to come down in a halfway tiny little hold, 10 seconds. You're going to finish it off. It's going to be great. It's going to feel so good. We'll be done. Perfect. You do it. oh yeah, that wasn't so bad. You set it down. If you really work hard, but I know you're not going to make it much past 10 seconds in a hold, but you're a super high intensity client. Lawrence, I need you to finish this rep. We're going to come right down to halfway. Just 10 seconds there. 10 seconds. I know you can do it. Right. It can be all about inflection as well. And how you set it up and cue it up to someone is a great way. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. Any other thoughts on finding the right level of intensity for people?
I mean, to me, it's people don't, I think this, having worked in super slow, I have a feeling that this probably comes from more super slow people. Like people will go to the level of intensity, one, that they're comfortable with, right? And two, that you set the expectation on from the first rep of the first set of the first exercise ever. So if you're taking them through an introductory workout and you are babying them, you're probably going to create a client who maybe already was at risk of being a lower intensity, of definitely being at a lower intensity. So to all of a sudden try to kick it up a notch a few workouts down the road, I think you're probably better served to at least give them a taste of what intensity could look like and have them ask you to back it down. Don't try to murder them, right? But
Yeah.
give them a taste. And as you do this more and more, and I think we mentioned we might talk about sales a little bit too, but you really get an idea of what somebody's capable of, or you should if you've been doing this enough, very early on in the first set they've ever done. And if you're not able to see that, then you probably just need to keep practicing and continue to try to understand that from a client's perspective.
Do you think you can't go wrong with just having the courage to push them harder than you would normally, or sorry, not that you would normally, but to try to push them from the beginning and almost risk them saying, "Hey, I need you to dial that back a little bit." It's almost like
100%. Yeah.
nothing bad's going to come of that, is it? If it's like, because you're not, like you say, you're not crushing them, but they probably appreciate you trying to get the most out of their workout, right? But
Yeah.
then if you're able
And
to
if
tailor that,
somebody really feels in danger or they really feel like this is too much, most of our colleagues are using machines, right? They're using high-end equipment. They can just set the weight down, right? That's part of the reason we use machines in the first place. If they are like, no, I do not like this, and I've never had that happen, just as a note. But if they really thought that, no, this is too much, okay, have them set it down and then baby them a little bit on the next exercise. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I just wanted to see what you're capable of, but I want to meet you where you're at. You tell me on the next exercise when you're done. And then you easily flip the script and go back the other way.
And do you take I've always taken the attitude of you just some clients, especially those who are really hard, real kind of intensity avoiders types, you're almost just trying to find a small incremental improvement each workout, like a 1% improvement in terms of like reps or resistance use or form. You're trying to manage your expectations. You realize that you can't get them to, all out, make sort of 10, 20% gains every single workout. And instead you're just looking for slight improvements. Have you ever tried using that approach? Is that something that's come up for you?
That's what I was saying as far as like not
I see.
telling them, right? So literally
Okay.
just continuing to increase and not letting them know. I mean, you don't have to tell somebody how much weight you're putting on something. Some people want to know that, but again, intensity avoiders in general they just don't want to be there typically, right? Or they know they have to be there. So I would just say sneak it in. Like lie is not a good word, but sneak it in wherever you can. Add an extra 5 seconds here if you're super slow. Add an extra 2 reps there if you're not. Find a way on almost every exercise. If you think they've got something left, add an extended AOT. Do something that's going to, and again, it's how you pitch it up too, right? If you're doing something like an AOT at the end, how are you going to keep their trust, but also allow them to push themselves a little bit harder than they would otherwise?
Yeah. And I know you have to speak very generally because this is very, very nuanced. But just for those listening who aren't familiar, extended AOT is extended advanced overload technique, which could be like a rest pause, a drop set, an isometric, a negative. And just as a quick tip, I'm curious what you think of the slogan, but what I've found to be quite effective, especially for the types of individuals we're talking about, is once they hit their version of muscle failure or they just stop the exercise, negatives can be a great way to elicit more fatigue because they're not as uncomfortable as a concentric rep for the most part.
Yeah.
And then isometric holds too.
Yep. All the tools in your tool belt, I think, become super, super beneficial there. I think it's important too, though, because I'm sure you have listeners that don't do anything at the end. They just let people go to
Yeah.
failure, whatever their version is. Don't do that. Like if your goal is to, I mean, do that if that's what your business model is, but do something at the end to help them get a little further because they're never going to do it on their own. Like that's where AOTs to me are important. Because if you have somebody that's working their ass off, you need to do very little. Like if they're an actual Mike Menser, Casey Viator-esque intensity level, you don't need to do very much at the end. They're going to give you 100%. It's the people in the middle of that spectrum that need varying degrees of assistance at the end, whether it's assisted negatives, whether it's a drop set, whether it's, any other AOT that you have at your disposal so that they can learn what intensity is. Because if you just tell them to go to failure, they don't know what failure is. Like people are very bad at actually realizing what failure is, even train people. Like Dr. Steele did a study a few years ago that looked at reps in reserve, how many reps you actually have left. And even people who had trained 2+ years were off by, on average, I think 1 or 2 repetitions. So how is the 75-year-old grandma that's coming in for the first time ever expect to get anywhere even close to failure if you're not assisting her along?
Do you remember what for the untrained, was it like 10 reps in reserve?
I think
Or
it's probably like four or five. I'm sure the
it
outliers
was a
were
lot.
super high. Yeah.
Yeah. I vaguely remember that. So just to, I guess, delve even deeper into this, and we might end up spending the rest of our time together on this topic,
That's okay.
is just to go one layer deeper. This one's for you, Billy, which I know you'll be listening to this. It's really a challenge he's had, which is related to what we're talking about. So again, it's working with difficult clients who are hard to push hard. The client 20 years from training with his business, and I'm sure many of us have these clients. These clients have been training for like decades. She wants to gain muscle, but won't go anywhere near failure. Finds it very frustrating because obviously he really wants to help her. How do we get difficult clients like this to push harder? So I know we touched on this already, but I'd love you to go even deeper on this.
He's been training the same person for 20 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does he have anyone else that works with him?
Oh,
Or is this a one-man
He
show?
does. No, he has multiple trainers.
I would have the other person train them and just try to destroy them kindly. Like that would be my idea. Like if somebody's used to, again, if you think they're capable of it too, right? Because you don't want to drive somebody out the door. But a lot of times, especially if you've been training somebody for that long, it's almost like a husband and wife relationship or husband and you get it. Like they're related, right? How are you going to listen to that person to push yourself a little further and having a fresh set of eyes and somebody who comes in with empathy, but is also going to say, no, we're not doing what Billy does. We're doing what Logan does today. I think that can go a huge way, and one of the things Luke talks about, I've heard him say this multiple times is, and I feel the same way when I train a new trainer is I want my clients to not want to work with me anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning I want you to be so good that you're going to steal them away and they go, Billy, I'm sorry to tell you this, but I have to work with Lawrence now because he pushes me in a way that you've never been able to, and take your ego out of it and go, fucking finally. All right. We found the ability to do that because a lot of times I think it's just the relationship. Like, you've cultivated that relationship over 2 decades and it's going to be maybe impossible for you to all of a sudden flip that switch for that person. Other options might be things like heavy negatives, but I can't imagine that he's not tried that. If this person is older, that's a great option to get a little more intensity because it's less metabolically demanding, but can still be a really good way to elucidate some benefits.
Mm. Yeah, it might be one of those where, Billy, when you listen to this, maybe even try and tape it, get it inside, hit business membership, post it in there, and I'm sure we'll be able to give even more precise advice. But this is great, Logan. I think that changing of the trainer is a great idea and something that I know he's moving towards anyway. That's happening more and more. So that's a very natural transition for him anyway. All right, good stuff. My last question last couple of points that relate to personal training is just saving time during sessions. I'm talking to a lot of people lately who are running, 30-minute sessions is the typical time. Some are obviously less than that, some are like 20 minutes. Have any tips for just saving time? Anything that you do to make sure that, if you've got 8 clients back to back, to make sure that you don't obviously infringe on the next session? Any little tips?
Again, very hard I'll speak in generalities because it depends on, I know you have super slow people who do 4 exercises, 5 exercises. And then at Discover Strength, we might do up to 13 in a workout. The first and most important thing I would say is start on time. If you have 8 clients in a row and you start at 7 a.m., you better start that first person if they're there early at 6:55, right? Get ahead of your schedule. If anything, that's a great thing I always use. I have been doing this for over 6 years, almost 7 years now. I had my Apple Watch. I time every single session I do. So literally, I put my stopwatch or my timer on for 27 minutes, and I click that bad boy. And when it goes off, I have 3 minutes to fit in whatever's left. And I tell this to all new trainers to utilize if you can. And obviously, you should have a workout prescription that you can fit into 30 minutes. That's number one. I think that kind of goes without saying. It shouldn't be 27 exercises, but occasionally somebody's chatty, something happens, you try something new, they lost their dog and they want to talk about it and you can't get all those exercises in. Have a reminder for yourself. I don't think there's any, I'm not shy to say I still time all my sessions because sometimes you lose track of time. And I'm not always checking the clock on the wall. And when that thing buzzes on my wrist, I go, we have 2 exercises left. We're doing one of them. And we're going to absolutely blow this person up at the end. And we're going to say good day. And we're going to start 30 seconds early for the next person.
Do you ever, firstly, is that a silent vibration on your wrist?
Yep.
Doesn't make sense. Yeah, clever.
Yeah.
And I love that. And secondly, do you ever have pushback? You hear someone go, hey, I paid for my full workout. I don't want to get my 2.
So I don't mean they're only getting 27 minutes. That's my reminder.
Oh, no, I just mean, I just mean if they got 2 exercises left and you say we're going to do 1 and they go, hey, you ever had pushback?
I have not personally, but I think it's all how you frame it. I've definitely had, heard stories of trainers that go, again, I think it depends too, right? If they're skipping tibia, but they're doing leg press, they're probably not going to be worried about tibia at the end, right? But if they're doing tibia and they're skipping leg press and they go, hey, where the heck's my leg press? That's a different issue. So I think it comes down to communication on the floor, because a lot of times at a busy studio, what happens with us is you might not have access to a machine, right? So you have to think on the fly and move around. And occasionally you might have to do some variety, substitute some exercises for different exercises. And in that case, I think the client kind of understands and they're like, oh, okay, well, we're doing something slightly different today. So, and I think you're also, at least in our model where we've got more exercises that we're putting into a workout, 8 to 12 typically, it's hard for people to remember everything they're doing every time. Not that you, again, should try to do everything on the workout card, right? But by the end, by 27 minutes in, you're pretty brain dead, or you should be. Most people aren't going to be like, what about my wrists? So hit the main stuff. Yeah, hit the main stuff, and they're probably not going to be too upset if you do miss stuff occasionally. But again, try to get everything in and use those little techniques to do that.
Yeah, it's most people I've found I'd be like, oh, thank God we're only doing one more movement. It's a very different. Yeah, if you've done your job right, you shouldn't have that issue that often. All right, so final topic just to finish on is you're a very, very successful sales trainer, just closing free workouts like a demon. And you've seen a lot of our colleagues, you've done clinical rotations, you've probably had lots of conversations about sales. I'd love to know, maybe give us 3 tips on what you think is the most important things to think about when you're running a sales consultation or a free workout, just to help the listeners close a few more sales there.
Think about this for a second.
You're taking notes.
Yeah. Okay. So I think important caveat, I've been in Utah for the last couple months, so I have not closed very many sales virtually. So anybody at Discover Strength listening to this who's closed 15 clients this last quarter, and I've closed 2, don't take this personally. But over the last few years, I have been pretty successful on sales teams. So I think I'm fairly qualified to talk about this. I wrote down 3 things. I put listen, empathize, and believe. And what I mean there is listen, actually listen, right? We have a 45-minute block that we use at Discover Strength for people. I find myself More often than maybe Hannah and Luke would like, sometimes adding in a little buffer afterwards, because I know people want to talk and they want to be heard. And it's hard to listen to somebody, get their background. Not always, but sometimes it's very hard to listen to somebody, get their background, get a workout in, and close the sale all in a 45-minute window. I find an hour for me, when I have the ability to do that, I can certainly do it in 45 minutes. But when I have the ability to give more of myself to the client, I will do that every single time. So listen to them, listen to their background, try to get some of their history. You know, what kind of dogs do they have? Where are they from? What does their significant other do? Do they have kids? Where are they? All those things, like those are important to people. Empathize with them if something's happened. Most of the time, people aren't coming to a personal trainer because they're absolutely killing it with their fitness goals, right? They're usually coming to you from a place of vulnerability. They're usually very vulnerable and they don't even know it, right? So they talk about the normal things. So I want to lose 15 pounds. I want to do this. I want to do that. But if you can dig a little deeper and share some stories of success, share, how you understand and you're there with them, that goes a huge way to people really feeling like you understand what's going on. And then tying those things back into the workout, right? So a lot of times what I'll do, first exercise is a chest press for me typically. At the end of that, I'll say, somebody said, my kids are going to school, right? I've got 3 kids that are all in college. Okay, you get one more rep, Lawrence, and I'm going to pay for all 3 of your kids full ride scholarships, right? Just something that shows that and that's within 5 minutes.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah, that goes a long way for people to go,
yeah,
I'm going to put Bobby through school, if you can give me one more rep, right? So that's a great way to really establish a rapport right away. And the last thing is you have to believe in what you're doing. You have to 100% practice it. You have to believe it. You have to share it with other people. You have to be dogmatic in the sense that you think this is what you're doing is the right way to train. And then it's not sales anymore. It's trying to help people. And that's the biggest shift I was able to make in the sales process is I actually believe in what I'm doing. And that makes me the best salesperson on the planet because I don't care if you close or not. I'm trying to make your life better. And people can genuinely feel that when there's a no pressure sales situation, when I'm not like, hey, I need you to do this. I need you to do that. We need you to sign right now. If somebody's not ready at the moment, hey, I'm going to follow up with you. I think this is going to be a great fit for you. I really want to see you reach those goals that you were talking about. And more often than not, they end up signing, that day because I believe in what I'm selling them. So that's my quick sales pitch.
Yeah, I love that. It's really interesting that you shared that last point around belief, because if you have nothing else, if you suck at sales and you're not a great active listener, you don't have all the other skills, but you have absolute conviction in the product or service that you're selling, you're going to have some modicum of success just from that one thing alone. Like that is the most important thing. Obviously active listening is super, super important too, which I've really been working on myself. Not been done a great job during this podcast, but So Logan, this has been amazing. We're at time, so thank you so much for joining me. I'm really glad we re-recorded because I think this has been much better. Just for those listening, we had previously recorded a version, and I definitely was not on top of my game. So Logan was kind enough to reschedule and say the same things again.
But better, I hope.
Oh, way better. And we obviously went into different topics, much more interesting stuff. So in terms of like what we can share with the audience, tell us your contact details, give us some info on the studio there in Salt Lake City, where you're opening, etc., so they can kind of keep up to date on that.
Yep. So if anyone's interested in signing up for our waiting list or you'd like to work with me virtually ahead of time, you can just go to our main website. It's www.discoverstrength.com. We are opening in the Salt Lake Valley. We have 3 locations that are going to be opening. The first one will be in Draper, Utah, which is like a southeastern suburb. So that is on track, fingers crossed, for mid-December of this year. You can go on the main Discover Strength website and click coming. So you can see all the different states and locations, and you can sign up for a waiting list if you happen to be in the Utah Valley area, or if you want to work with me or sign up with us. You can just message me directly. It's just Logan@discoverstrength.com.
Awesome. Thank you, Logan. And for everyone listening, to get the show notes for this episode, as always, please go to highintensitybusiness.com and search for episode 439. And until next time, thank you very much for listening.
Let's go.
Welcome to another episode brought to you by Imagine Strength, the future of safe, simple, and effective high-intensity training equipment. Are you a HIIT studio owner looking for equipment that's not just top-notch, but also tailored to your specific needs? Imagine Strength is your answer. Inspired by the legendary Arthur Jones, Imagine Strength is revolutionizing the HIIT industry with their state-of-the-art yet affordable equipment. Their team doesn't just sell HIIT equipment, they live and breathe it. I've personally experienced their gear at the Resistance Exercise Conference, and let me tell you, it was an intense workout that I won't soon forget, in the best way possible, of course. So why choose Imagine Strength? Number one, they provide customized solutions for HIIT studios. Number two, they have budget-friendly yet high-performance designs. And number three, they're committed to innovation and excellence in high-intensity training specifically. Founder Jeff Turner and his dedicated team are on a mission to make HIIT accessible to everyone. Getting started is easy. Number one, visit imaginestrength.com. Number two, consult with their expert team. And number three, choose the equipment that will skyrocket your business. Don't wait. Head over to imaginestrength.com and elevate your HIIT studio today with Imagine Strength.